So let's start this hour with this developing story from the Oval Office just a few hours ago. President Trump has finally confirmed his plans to sue the BBC. The president had previously stated, of course, that he views it as his obligation to take legal action.
This important interruption is brought to you by ExpressVPN. Protect your money and your identity. Click the link in the description or scan the QR code here to get ExpressVPN right now and save up to 73% on annual plans today. Right, let's get back into it.
In a little while, you'll be seeing I'm suing the BBC for putting words in my mouth. Literally, they put words in my mouth. They had me saying things that I never said coming out. I guess they used AI or something. So we'll be bringing that lawsuit. A lot of people are asking, when are you bringing that lawsuit? Even the media can't believe that one. They actually put terrible words in my mouth having to do with January 6th that I didn't say.
So I'm delighted to say my panellists are here with me this evening. Political strategist Thomas Corbett-Dillon and former Obama policy advisor Laurie Watkins. Right, Thomas, let me come to you first because you are, of course, British, but you're living here. You have a dog in this fight because you've probably at some point in your life paid your licence fee. This had gone quiet. There was all of the noise at the time when President Trump was alerted to the fact that this Panorama documentary had been spliced together to show him saying, fight, fight, fight at the Capitol. Why now?
Well, I think, it's smart. The president has dragged this out. As soon as the sort of stories died down, he's like, okay, let's bring it straight back to the beginning. So I think that the situation with him is, I think he's being smart. I also think that he needs to maybe offer free tickets to the new ballroom in DC because it looks like British taxpayers are going to be funding the whole thing. So I think that's where the money goes. So whatever the BBC pays, he's going to put towards the ballroom.
Laurie Watkins, let me come to you. I imagine you think this is maybe just a vanity project? I don't want to put words in your mouth. I just did.
Well, I don't know if it's a vanity project, but I will say that your network, GBNews, who I love coming on every week, by the way, they never really let this die down. I mean, when you interviewed the president in the Oval Office, you asked him about this, and he seemed pretty animated about it. And some other networks, at the time, were querying him about what he was going to do as well. So I think, like Thomas said, he was waiting for the right opportunity, and the right opportunity is always for Donald Trump when he wants to cause a distraction and take away from the policy issues that are failing or the economy that everyone is feeling and being hurt by. So let's roll out another lawsuit. Take everyone, off the attention of what's really going on.
I would push back on that because I think GB News has let this drop. We haven't been talking about this, and this came as a surprise to me. We could have probably shoehorned this topic in every single show if we'd wanted to, and we absolutely haven't.
For a while, it was pretty top of your X feed anyway was all about it.
And that is because, why? Because we believe that the British taxpayer should have value for money when it comes to the BBC, and we are also frustrated by the fact that we are held to very different standards than the BBC when it comes to impartiality. We absolutely are. I would take on anyone to say that we are not judged more harshly. You can look at any of the major topics and you know the BBC's position on them. And it is an assumption that they are right, whether that has been the trans debate, the green agenda, whether that all of the ESG, all of the environmental social governance, big issues, big ticket items, you know where the BBC stands on them.
Yeah, you're right. And what was it, just this week we saw one of the commentators say that Nick Fuentes should kill himself, and I didn't hear any pushback from the BBC on that. There was no scandal. Imagine if I said on here that I think a leftist should kill themselves.
Was that on the BBC?
It was the BBC, yeah. It was, I forget her name, the girl, but it was one of their debates they were having. He said they said Hitler killed himself, and he said maybe Nick should follow his leader.
And just in case people don't know who Nick Fuentes is, he's extremely right-wing.
He did the Piers Morgan
commentator, interview in inverted commas. But I'm not a big fan of Nick Fuentes, but I certainly would never on a TV show advocate to kill someone.
And she did, and there was no pushback. And as I say, if I said that on this show, you obviously would push back on me, as you have to. But you're right, you are held to unfair. And I do think, yes, the president is dragging this out, but he has a right to, because it's a huge story. And I also think Americans don't quite understand what it is like to be forced to pay a fee to have a television in your living room, and if you don't pay it, they come and bang on your door, send you to court. The
send you to prison.
That they send you to prison. The enforcement that the people do is
even
crazy.
if you don't watch it. I learned that from appearing on this.
Right, so like we're really passionate about this. It's crazy. So yeah, we are upset about it.
Yeah, well, we will keep you posted on any news we hear about that, and no doubt there will be a reaction from the BBC, I would have thought, in the next 24 hours or so, maybe sooner. But let's turn now. Let me know what you think at home, gbnews.com/yoursay, because I'm sure you will also have very strong opinions on that.
Every time you're online, your money and your identity are at risk. Scams now make up nearly 40% of all crime in the UK. That's thousands of attacks every single day. In Britain, someone has their identity stolen every 2 minutes, leaving victims with wrecked finances and years of stress. The threat is real, and you could be next. ExpressVPN is your shield against criminals. It locks down your devices, hiding your personal information and financial details from hackers, scammers, and anyone else looking to exploit you. So whether you're checking your bank, shopping, or just browsing, ExpressVPN makes you invisible to prying eyes trying to steal your money and your identity. ExpressVPN shields your data with military-grade AES 256 encryption. That's the same standard trusted by the US government to guard classified information. This is the highest level of online security you can get. So don't wait for disaster. Secure up to 14 devices at once and get powerful password protection. Real support is available 24/7 because cybercrime never sleeps. Click the link in this video's description or scan the QR code to get up to 75% off ExpressVPN plus 4 months extra for free. Every moment you hesitate is another moment you're exposed. Protect your money and protect your identity. Get ExpressVPN right now.
Should we start with Trump? When we got to Trump, we got to say big news today. He's made that threat. He's followed through with his threat. We believe there might have been at some point been a phone call between the Prime Minister and Donald Trump. If that took place, it hasn't stopped Donald from the President of the United States from going after the BBC. He's saying £5 billion for fake news, $5 billion.
It made me laugh when he said, I don't know how they did that. Maybe he did it with AI. It's called editing, Donald. But anyway, he clearly don't know that. But, I mean, the bottom line is he may well have a case because this wasn't a mistake on the part of the BBC. This was a willful and purposeful distortion of the facts. You know, Trump was right when he says they put words in his mouth. They absolutely did. And I think, you know, the BBC were very truculent at the beginning, if you remember. They didn't apologise immediately, which will actually get... I think if they'd done it immediately, said sorry, it might have been out of the way, but they didn't do that. It went on for a long time. So I just think, you know, and they also said at the time they weren't going to pay compensation, which is a pretty bad stance to take when you have got something wrong and you willfully got something wrong. You were trying to discredit the guy. So I think when I say we, I mean licence payers were all going to be paying a lot of money for this.
Well, let's just play that clip of the President of the United States saying he's going to sue the BBC today.
In a little while, you'll be seeing I'm suing the BBC for putting words in my mouth, literally. They put words in my mouth. They had me saying things that I never said coming out. I guess they used AI or something. So we'll be bringing that lawsuit. A lot of people are asking, when are you bringing that lawsuit? Even the media can't believe that one. They actually put terrible words in my mouth having to do with January 6th that I didn't say.
Yeah, so Jake Berry, this got the BBC in a lot of trouble. It's certainly damaged the BBC's reputation here, and at least in America, from what we can see. He's going after them for $5 billion. Carol makes a good point. It will be licence fee payers that have to burden that.
Yeah, and that's the pity, isn't it? Is that, you know, that licence fee payers may, if he is successful, have to pay an increased licence fee. And, you know, if they do, this is a real opportunity to say we must revisit the licence fee. We should ask why we're all having to pay it. And I think ultimately that if they lose this case, the BBC could be in real trouble. I mean, this will be several times bigger, I guess, than the budget that they have available for this sort of court case.
Yeah, I mean, look, luckily, I'm just reading the Telegraph piece here. They're citing legal experts who say that Trump faces an uphill battle. So hopefully we won't all be shelling out just yet, lining the president's pockets. But look, we all know the Trump playbook by now. He is a performer. He is a comms supremo who came up through reality TV. This is about staying in the papers, staying in the news, and keeping the story running on.
He's the most powerful man in the world. Yes. He doesn't have to work hard to stay in the papers.
But he wants to be in the papers for the right reasons.
His latest TV show basically is I create the news. The BBC is wrong. If they're not wrong, why did the Director General resign? That's one of the great challenges they have. They're going to say, well, we've done nothing wrong.
And the head of
news.
The
Director General and the head of news resigned over this.
Well, there's a difference, isn't there?
Our state broadcaster has repeatedly been shown to be biased, whether it's bias against Donald Trump by the doctoring of this clip, whether it's biased by producing a documentary that is presented by the son of a Hamas official, whether it's their repeated refusal to label Hamas terrorists after the October the 7th massacre in Israel. They are getting their comeuppance. Isn't it strange that we need the President of the United States to take the BBC on here in the UK because our politicians are too weak to...
Let me just come back on that point. You said, why did people resign if this was so bad? People resigned because journalistic ethics were breached and heads had to roll because of that. It was a serious incident. But the question here...
Why didn't he have a case?
But the question here... Yes, no. But crucially, that is not the same as defamation. Journalistic ethics being breached does not automatically equal defamation, and that is what this legal question is about.
But it does show wrongdoing, and and by all accounts, everyone can see that it's a manufactured clip, and it's not just once; it's twice they did it. They did it on Newsnight and Panorama. So it does look like there's a deliberate effort by the BBC to paint Donald Trump's words in a certain way, not on one programme, but on two.
Paint Donald Trump's words as calling for insurrection.
But that's not enough to earn you a payout. That is the key point here.
Look, if that is not defamatory, and I say this as someone who's been a solicitor for the last 25 years, I'd struggle to find a statement.
Well, then why are legal experts telling the Telegraph that they think Trump is facing an uphill battle?
I think they're telling the Telegraph that Trump is facing an uphill battle because here in the United Kingdom, this claim would be time-barred, but I think, as I understand, President Trump is going to issue this in Florida, which has no statute of limitation in relation to these sort of claims, and actually has very robust defamation rules, potentially more robust than the United Kingdom. And the legal successes that Donald Trump has had already against broadcasters has been in the United States, not trying
to... And yet they're saying it's going to be a tough road for him.
Well, but of course it's going to be a tough road. You're suing for £5 billion. The BBC is not just going to say, OK, we'll pay that, because they've already said they're not...
It doesn't matter what the BBC thinks. It matters whether they've defamed him in the eyes of the Florida court.
All court cases to get £5 billion would be an uphill battle. It's not an easy...
Even if it fails, they will have to pay out millions of pounds of licence payers' money to defend themselves. And that shows why the BBC has got to get its house in order. Because this will not be the first, and it probably will be the first, I beg your pardon, but I don't think it will be the last.
That's very true.
Carol, do you think if this lawsuit is successful, it's going to destroy the BBC for good? They're going to have to completely look at their entire licence fee.
I think what will happen is if we end up having to pay this £5 billion, you know, there's something like 2.5 million people have stopped paying their licence in the last 3 years. That gets more every day because, as Jake just said, we see every day the bias of the BBC. You know, when the head of news left and Tim Davies, they all said the BBC was not biased. I mean, it's a joke. They're saying the words, but we know it's not true because we see it every day. So I think this will totally discredit the BBC.
Yeah, OK.